going off to Far From Home is the next one.
And this movie kind of had the task of being a sequel to Homecoming, while at the same time following up on what was done in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
I want to start off with talking about Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie because we forgot to mention Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm sure most people know this.
He's had history, yeah.
Was going to be, was considered to replace Tobey Maguire for Spider-Man 2 because Tobey Maguire was having back problems from doing the first movie, plus that horse racing movie. I can't even remember the name of it. But it came out after the first Spider-Man. He did that movie. He had a lot of back problems, so he almost didn't do the movie. Jake Gyllenhaal was almost going to replace him. So it's kind of interesting that Jake Gyllenhaal would eventually make his way.
He somehow found his way back to
the
Spider-Man franchise, even if it was 15 years later.
Yeah.
Good casting, though.
I love Jake Gyllenhaal. He's probably one of my favorite actors working.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing that this new set of MCU movies has done with their villains. They've cast just A-list actors to be these Spider-Man villains.
It's crazy to see how at this movie with the introduction of Mysterio, they teased that he's from a multiverse, and now it's coming true now. Though there actually is a multiverse. They confirmed it. Now it's real. So maybe we will in fact get more Mysterios.
Right, Mysterio is a character I always loved from when I was younger. I always thought you could just do so many cool things with him, especially those PS2 Spider-Man games. Mysterio was always in those, and they always had really cool levels, so I always wanted to see him in a movie. And I thought they did a pretty good job. I loved the scene,
when he's using the drones
right,
to, for all the illusions with Peter, where he sees himself at the top of the Statue of Liberty, which, interestingly enough, there is a scene in the next one coming up. It's in the trailer.
Yeah, we don't know how big of a role it's going to be in the movie.
But Jake Gyllenhaal does a fine job. Very, an egomaniac. He comes off really two-faced. He's a friend of Spider-Man. He wants to help him. He's trying to stop these villains. And then suddenly, he gets a hold of the glasses, Tony Stark's glasses, gets a hold of the drones for real, full control. Edith, yeah. And now he's full reveal, I'm a bad guy. Tony Stark screwed me over.
Well, that's again, even though anybody who knows anything about Spider-Man knew that was coming, it was still a pretty nice twist to see.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that's great about Jake Gyllenhaal is he can play both. He can play that nice, warm-feeling friend.
He does
but then can switch to that if you've seen Nightcrawler, you've seen this kind of unnerving side of Jake Gyllenhaal that he can play. So I think that does work really well for the Mysterio character.
Now, so now with Spider-Man in this movie, can we cut?
Sure.
Fuck, I was going somewhere.
We don't have to actually stop. We can just keep going.
It's just so I can.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But so I was gonna bring up how
bring up either the travel, Mary Jane.
No, I was gonna talk about how this movie,
actually Michelle Jones.
Yeah, MJ,
this movie had to follow up after Avengers Endgame with Peter carrying the weight of having people asking him if he's going to be the next Tony Stark.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so going back to the beginning of this movie, where it finds Peter Parker in the beginning, he's just half the universe has been saved. Everybody is looking up to Tony Stark, who was a huge character in Spider-Man: Homecoming and a very pivotal role in Peter's life so far. Everyone's looking to him and saying "Oh, are you going to be the next Iron Man?" And you really do feel that he's overwhelmed with this idea of basically becoming somebody that everybody sees as a god almost.
Yeah.
He needs a vacation because of it. It's too much for him, so he travels out of the country. He has to get away from it all, and it's impossible for him.
It's kind of interesting the direction they went with this movie because in Homecoming, all he wants to do is be Spider-Man, whereas in this one, he's doing everything he can to not be Spider-Man for a weekend. So it's just kind of a interesting dynamic between the two movies.
Well, and I think that's understandable though, because in the first movie he wasn't being taken serious enough, and he wanted to do more. He knew he could do more, And, you know, he still wanted to be a kid. You got, you know, elements of that, like in the first movie, even though he had to make some sacrifices. In this one, I think it all just becomes a little bit too much. You know, it's one of those things of be careful what exactly you wish for.
Well, of course, we'll see in No Way Home, according to the trailers, you know, this stuff's going to come head to head.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange has talked about this. The problem is you trying to live two different lives, and we've seen these two different lives with these movies. Wanting to be Spider-Man and not wanting to be Spider-Man.
Well, the biggest part, I should stop right there, cut that. But one of the biggest things for Peter Parker in this movie is I don't want to be Spider-Man right now. I want to get away from all my problems, and I miss this man who was my father figure. Then also, it's can I believe in myself to have the responsibility of take care of Edith, because he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be responsible for Edith and all his power. And so what he does is he gives it away, and then he instantly realizes that's a huge regret. I made a big mistake. And then you see him, all the scenes of him fighting the drones, and they're all around him. He doesn't know where he's at, what's going on. He has to rely on senses and believe in himself. That's a big part of the arc.
And a great scene that really showcases all of that, I feel, is when he's talking to Happy on the plane, and
making his new
Oh, I
suit.
do love that scene.
and he breaks down and he just tells him, like, you know, I'm not Iron Man. I don't know what people expect me to be, but I can't be that. And then Happy, you know, he gives him the boost that he needs. And, you know, I like that because that was a big problem a lot of people had with the last movie was they kept trying to, a lot of people saw as they kept trying to make him Iron Boy Jr., but no, it shows that he is his own person and his own superhero, and he's going to find a way himself to solve this problem without any, you know, fancy tech or anything like that. He gets in there and he uses his wits and his
I mean, he does
skill.
have his fancy suit that he
fancy
made.
suit,
With
but-
AC/DC that they added, which was a great callback to the original Iron Man.
But
I
this
did like
one,
that.
there's no more Karen. Rather than it just being the suit, you see him actually get more creative, and he's actually jumping around, drone to drone, trying to stop him. He's swinging them around with an engine, blowing stuff up. He's working his way through, and finally he's confident in being Spider-Man. I don't need the gadgets. I can do this all for myself. And he takes down Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio.
Right.
He
though it doesn't
supposedly
end.
does.
Well,
We'll have to see.
But
But
an important topic of this movie, though, is MJ, Zendaya.
yeah,
Much different character. You know, we've switched love interest now. The other one,
she's a new character, which is an interesting
interesting
direction.
take.
They call her MJ, but she's not Mary Jane,
Michelle
which is
Jones.
interesting. Yeah, which the relationship between them, I just don't think it's been fleshed out enough. We'll just kind of have to see to really judge it.
It's
For what we've gotten
she's-
so far, I do like that. It does feel like a genuine, awkward teenage relationship
It
so
does,
far.
That's a good point.
And, you know, but I still would agree. I'm not super crazy about it so far. We are going to have to see more of it. I mean, it all did kind of just come to a head by the end of this
she's
movie.
the most unique take on the character. She's not your, even like an average person. You know, she's very, very odd and kind of into weird things. Always making weird one-liners in both movies. But he
And-
has this huge crush on her, and we're seeing it develop finally in this movie.
Not very comic accurate, but once again, I think.
Well, she's
it's-
not Mary Jane though.
She's
So
not
that's the
one
thing to
for-
take away is that this is a new character, so they can really go in any direction they
Well,
want.
we didn't. Speaking of new characters, we didn't mention it, but this series of MCU Spider-Man has a lot of new characters that have never been seen before. You know, Ned.
Well, Ned is
There's
from
no-
Ned is from the comics. He's Miles Morales' friend.
Well, he's saying, like, in the
Okay.
film
It's
franchise.
in the
Oh,
film
yeah, yeah,
franchise,
yeah.
You know, there's no Harry. There's no of the teachers. You know, it's all high school. You have this new MJ. None of the same love interest. You have the best friend is Ned, which is way different.
Even Flash Thompson's
Even
different.
Flash Thompson's different. Yeah.
Definitely a different take
You know,
on
even
that
though
character.
Zendaya's MJ, she's not Mary Jane. She's someone else completely different. Flash Thompson, he's definitely not the iteration we got of him from the Raimi movies or the TASM films. But I think a lot of the changes that they made for this universe, they work well
They do
with
work.
inside the universe that's established.
Yeah, I mean overall, Far From Home, it's I like Homecoming a little bit more, which will,
Yeah.
like I said, we'll rank these at the end, but still great. Still one of the best Spider-Man movies we've gotten. I mean, it's MCU quality. I mean, this kind of stuff we expect. I mean, it's the MCU. They're great.
The
They
movie
make great
is
stuff.
it's a lot of fun.
It's a good
It's a
movie.
lot of fun.
Not to mention, this one had the jaw-dropping ending with the reveal, which Jake Gyllenhaal, he wanted the end.
Well, and
He
J.K.
won
Simmons back
in
as
the end.
Jameson. That was
That's
also.
true. You think, okay, it's all over. Life's finally good, and he's back in New York, and here he comes to bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It's a huge reveal, and then just cut credits.
What the fuck?
What's
he says
going
that
on,
They
dude?
continued
Oh,
that
yeah.
from Homecoming, but